It should start soon. There we go. I'm nice and bright red now. Okay, let's just double check. Sweet. I see it going to Twitch. That means it's going to go to Facebook. Let's wait till some folks tune in. Or should I just start the song? Let it play.
Yeah, start it.
I'm going to start the song. Here we go.
Second?
Oh, more crooked.
Yeah.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to lose. Stuck here in the name of love. Will I ever know it's home? Enough to tell if I found some. And all my life I'll never take it. And all my love I'll never fake it. Running past it over and over. And all my love, we're getting closer to the gravity of the light. After the darkness,
I'll let us hit that chorus.
the breath that keeps us alive. Will we have carefully saved? Will we have given away? The hum is what we create.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are back for another session breakdown every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And today, Lauren is back. Lauren, what's up?
Hello.
We are here on a beautiful sunny day on the East Coast. That was the official audio visualizer for the track The Hum, which we are going to be talking about today. That is the first track on our album, 2019 album, Full Bloom. And one of the wackier sessions, so this should be fun, and hopefully I don't talk too much. But that's part of the fun, right, everybody?
That's
We
right.
got the chat open here. We're here, gonna be here for an hour or so. Thanks so much for coming back, for tuning in. So, Lauren, how did this song start?
I honestly do not remember how it started. I just know that all of a sudden there was a nice little acoustic idea. And then
We were trying to
we
figure
just-
out, did we do this? Oh yeah, the video just ended. There's the session. Did we do this upstate, or was this in Brooklyn?
we started it in Brooklyn, but when we finished it, it was at the house you rented upstate. And you had your
Yes.
piano there,
That's
right?
right.
Or did they have no, your piano
No,
like
I
got
moved.
delivered there or something crazy.
So this was
That
the
sounds so
tiny.
fancy.
I know, right? That's not something we do. We don't have pianos
No.
moved into houses, but we started in this tiny little studio room. This is, as you can see, there's the Love That Remains album art. We wrote so many songs in this room. This is like about a 10 by 10 foot square room. This was my old apartment in Williamsburg of like 5 or 6 years. Lived there with Mr. Jazz McNerdy, who you can see in the Twitch chat. This was his old bedroom, and when he moved out, I just put soundproofing everywhere. It was basically like recording in a vocal booth, so it was very cozy, but just enough room, I think, for like me and Lauren. And if anyone even wanted to pop their heads in, we were like, nope, get out.
Yeah.
But we started there, and then, I mean, we'll get to the sort of chronology of it all, but we ended up renting this beautiful house in upstate New York for a month. My wife and I were like kind of looking at moving out of the city, and then Lauren, I think we did a couple weekends there, just one weekend, but we finished The Hum in this beautiful space. It was kind of inspiring, and I think we approached it in a different way because of that, but it was a journey like most things. But yeah, we started, and this is another one of those songs where we sort of started it on just one of these writing sessions that were just, let's get out some ideas. around the time that The Love Remains came out. And here's the original, and for those of you that know the final track, it's always fun to hear these demos. This is the original demo of The Hum, which was called Quake.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to lose. Stuck here in the name of love. Will I ever know it's hum? Enough to tell if I found some.
The intro is basically exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then nothing. But it basically did all this. Ooh. Did we keep that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think we went into a second verse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And then we went back to that pre-chorus again. We basically, I think that's what was so interesting about this song from just a songwriting structure perspective. So we had this like thing we were building with this beautiful intro. That was going to be a second verse. And then it was just the same pre-chorus, and we thought like we'll put something else there eventually, But I don't remember exactly when, Lauren. Do you remember? But at a certain point, we just decided that all that stuff, like everything from here, second half of this file was just unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't really remember. But I do remember saying that this is an opportunity to create something that doesn't follow a traditional
Exactly.
verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, chorus, whatever. Like we just wanted to do our own weird thing. So that we like did that purposefully with this song.
And I think it was almost, like I think we had tried to do that with a couple other songs, but it just didn't quite work. Whereas this intro really did eventually serve as just an intro. And we didn't try to turn it into like 3 verses and super repetitive or anything. And I actually found a couple of my original voice memos. This is usually how things go. It's like we get this huge structure down, and then I record about 10 or 15 voice memos, and then Lauren comes in with a much better idea on the spot, and that's how our songs are written. So this was like the pre-chorus idea. I don't know if you even remember this. I probably played it for you, and you were like, cool. Whatever happened to it always go. For the pre-chorus for Quake. Whatever happened to it always going on tonight. I know. With building up highs. Probably should have listened to these before streaming them to the internet, but let's see what my chorus idea was, everybody. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So we did it. We did actually have that halftime feel for the original chorus.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's...
I think that when we did that, I was like, this is too, I forget. I just was like, that doesn't feel right. So
I like, I don't want to make a generalization about my process, but this is perhaps the most on point thing. I don't think I've ever done one of those voice memos that ended up being a song, ever. So no, I don't want to knock it for anyone else. Actually, occasionally I'll do like a drum beat or a bass line, but every time I do that, it's always just like, it's always much better when like, especially when we're in the room together and we're like, okay, what do we want this section to feel like? Where do we want it to go? Do we want it to lift? What's the emotion? Let's think of some concepts. Yeah, it was trying to be a little too epic too, And I think what was so cool about the production of this, similar to like When the Summer Ends, that just needed time to breathe. There were these small breakthroughs, and I think that's, what we can dive into now. And as you can see, this ended up being a very, very large session. It's about, I think it really is like about 100 tracks in total. And it really took, I mean, this was so interesting because we literally had that intro, cut everything off after that, really, except for some of the ideas. And we went section by section, completely different production, as you can see. And then it took us the final step, which was gluing it all together, which was kind of fun. You know, it was a different way of writing. It was like basically writing 4 different songs and then making sure they were the same song, going back and sort of gluing it all together.
Yeah.
So again, the intro, you know, and I really love this one too, because especially as an album starter, it's just so immediately present, I guess, you know, because it really was just, I think we might have even played and recorded this all at the same time. I mean, it was basically just this.
Yeah.
Break me in two.
What were you going to say, Lauren?
Oh, no, sorry.
No,
Play. Go ahead.
yeah.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to lose. Stuck here in the name of love. Will I ever know it's home? Enough to tell if I found some.
I really, yeah, and I think because there's no click track.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So we actually, the way I remember this, I think we actually like wrote this thing, and then we were like, let's just get down a demo, and we sang and played it at the same time, completely free, which I really think adds to what makes that so special. And then when it drops into a beat, it feels cool, you
Right.
know?
And that's what we ended up doing live too, right? We
We
sing
sure
the
tried.
intro with no click. We tried.
No, I'm just that was a really this was a really hard song to do live. It
Yeah.
worked. It totally worked. I just remember like the challenge of getting this to work in rehearsal where it was completely free, us playing in time, 4 of us with Alex on guitar, and then kind of like having the track start perfectly. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it was a challenge.
Yeah.
But it started, you know, as this kind of weird little folk song almost. The original demo dropped into sort of like we kept the pre-chorus, which I'll jump to next. Another cool thing with the vocals, we liked how intimate it was, but I remember you were like, let's do something layered over it that's weird, and that's why I mean, I don't have the original vocoder plug here, but here's the vocoder that's layered in.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to
Oh yeah. So there it is. It's just it's this plugin. It's called the Morphoder. I believe it comes with Pro Tools. So if you're a Pro Tools user, you can just use. Oh no, sorry. It's a Waves plugin. It's part of the Waves package. But it's not an expensive plugin. It's like the baseline vocoder. I know there's definitely fancier ways of vocoding. Whoa, someone's tuning in from Armenia. Hi Arman in Armenia. That's far from here. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around. We're talking about plugins and our song The Hum. But yeah, this was really cool. I mean, I can actually show you guys exactly what it sounds like on the vocal. So this is my vocal.
break me in two.
It sounds actually better on Lauren's because that's where all the high-end information. But as you can see,
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move.
very sorry. There's actually 2 layers of vocoders. All right, new trick, everybody. Layer 2 vocoders for extra, good stuff.
Break me in two.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Let me choose which part to move.
So basically, when my vocals and your vocals are combined, my computer does not like doing all that. It essentially sounds like this. This is when it's like processed. So it's a vocoder layer underneath our 2 very intimate vocals.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to lose.
Wow. It's weird. It works though.
Stuck here in the name of love.
So basically, all that together, this is all from the first day too.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to lose. Stuck here in the name of love. Will I ever know its home?
So that kind of created the perfect palette, and we eventually, can't remember if we tried to layer other stuff there, but I don't
I
think we
don't
did.
think so. I think we just left it.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge is really the next part because it kind of drops into this like electro Fleetwood Mac thing.
All my life, I'll never take it. And all my love,
More vote
I'll
voter.
never fake it. Running past it over and over. And all my love, we're getting closer to the
I think that's a really fun technique, and it's something that Jack Antonoff does a lot in Bleachers, chopping up harmonic instruments so that they add to the percussion. Because as this sort of flows, these are the guitars. The chops are here. And it kind of adds to this like glitch effect with the vocals, which is really nice.
all my love, we're getting closer to the
So, the big breakthrough to this song, do you remember, how did we get to the hum? Because for me personally, these are some of my favorite lyrics on the record.
Oh yeah, this song was always kind of the most special song to me because I think it was the most unique song we had done together. It really felt like it was ours in this different kind of way. And so as soon as we had a listenable demo, like I remember having it just on repeat in my car driving home upstate, like very much feeling like this was representative of the next record that we were going to make. I don't remember though coming up with the idea of the hum necessarily. I don't have a memory for some reason.
It might have even just been like we were trying to pinpoint. Here, I'm just opening up the exact. Is this looking up the lyrics, guys? It's really hard. I don't know if you can do this, Lauren, but to recite a song's lyrics, like just reading them, is like the hardest thing in the world to me. But meaning like if someone was to be like, just read me the lyrics to the hum, I couldn't do it for you. I'd need to sing it.
Oh, but if you're just reading it in front of you though, you can't read the words.
Oh no, I can read it. No, I just mean like off memory.
Oh, okay, got it.
But
Break me in two.
let me choose which part to move.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which half to use or what's left to use. Stuck here in the name of love. Oh, that's what. Will I ever know its hum? I think that's what it was. We kept. I feel like we kept going in circles, trying to take this somewhere, and often, I think often our original idea for this was honing in on. That's what it was. We sort of already had the idea, and then we realized like we should just extend it from that
Right.
first. Because right here, this is all we had after the first day. But I remember talking about it and being like, well, that idea of love having a hum or a certain like state of being or a feeling that sort of you transcend everything, not to tell if I found some. And I think that was with the basis of it. We're like, well, let's just extrapolate what the hum is. And that's how we got to the chorus. And these
Yeah.
are some of my favorite, describing what that is. The gravity of the light after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive. What we have carefully saved, what we have given away, the hum is what we create. And it's such a nice sentiment too, because it sort of puts us in a situation where we're in control of this. We can create it. But it's also, I don't know. I always love ideas like that where it's sort of, it feels so much larger than life and magical, but it's also so personal.
Yeah, personal and simple and relatable for every person. Basically, it's just the energy of being like a live human.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love just complimenting ourselves, don't you? I will say though, those are some of the, I'm really, really, really proud of how that came together. And after that, I think it also came together because we found this deeper, more meaningful section, which ended up being the chorus. And I'm just gonna play this because there's so many fun vocal layers, but I don't wanna give it away right off the bat. So basically, we have our pre-chorus, and Lauren sings that.
And all my life I'll never take it. And all my love I'll never fake it. Running past it over and over. And all my love, we're getting closer to the
So yeah, I remember getting to it and be like, well, we're getting closer to the hum. Let's restate this idea. And what ended up happening in a cool way was like a 2-part chorus. We had this, and this was from the original demo. We had this sort of 4 on the floor, straight beat, Fleetwood Mackie thing. But then we realized it would be so cool to go halftime. And I think in this time, really like the inspiration for how this song came together was Sylvan Esso. Because we were
Yeah.
both, I feel like you got me into it, and I remember just listening to it. And they do such an amazing job of, the songwriting is so strong, the melodies are so strong, and often very simple, but the songs are just like all through composed. They just keep building and building. It's never boring. And we thought at that point, I think, was when we were like, let's make this A B C D E F G, as a song with restating motifs here and there. But we ended up getting to this chorus and sort of this chug, Sorry, here.
we're getting closer to the
And the same guitars. So at the root of this song is just an acoustic, beautiful acoustic song. And so from there, the hums ended up being these sort of downbeat statements, and it became a call and response thing. And I remember this is when we were upstate. Lauren, I don't know if you remember this specifically, but this was like the big breakthrough, I feel like, when we sort of did the, harmonize yourself and we'll tune it and see what happens. Like basically live vocoder thing, which I think I've touched on a couple times in these. But it ended up being this. I'll just play you guys, it's my hums and Lauren's melody with those lyrics we were just talking about, and it just came together so beautifully.
The gravity of the light after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive. The what we have carefully saved, what we have given away, the hum is what we create.
So that ended up being, I think it was it's nice especially when you're working on a song and you hit a lot of walls and then that comes out. And I remember, being like, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, we
Like,
can do it.
We can do it. And it's probably gonna be really good now. And so it was really fun once we had that down. And then I think after that we were like, let's accent these 2 sections to almost be an A section of a chorus and a B section of a chorus. And it's especially fun when you can completely change the feel of it. So I just wanted to kind of break down the drums really quick because the drums on this track are manic. There's a lot of weird fills. I think this was, again, listening to Sylvan Esso and being sort of inspired by this chopped up kind of approach. Ferris Mason on YouTube asked, what kind of hardware did you use to track these vocals? We're generally pretty simple with vocal tracking. I think at this time I still had a compressor, but it is just, it's good equipment, but we don't overdo it. I'll take you down here for a sec. I have a little 500 series rack. For Lauren's vocal, we always use the Neve 1073, which is right there. And at the time, I had a compressor right there, but I sold it because times are tough. But usually, for most of this record, the vocal chain was, this was probably, I have a Neumann U87, So it was a Neumann U87 into a 1073 with a little bit of API 525 compression. Just a little bit, because I don't like to overdo it. But that's it. You know, it's a pretty fantastic mic for both of our vocals. And the funny thing is we've actually switched more to using this because we've actually done a bunch of writing trips now. So at the end of the day, you know, our vocals are either through that or this exact microphone straight into an Apogee duet, and that's it. And we add a lot of effects, so... But yeah, that's pretty much it on those vocals especially. And I'll break into it later, but there's some more software processing, obviously, and some nice reverb and stuff. Hey, Jordan on Facebook. Glad you think it's a unique track as well. We're just talking about the drums now. And again, if you guys have any other questions, I'll be sure to get to it. We have our chat windows open. This is The Hum, if you're just tuning in. And now we're just talking a little bit about this drum production, because I remember that was kind of a weird part about it, too. I mean, this is the pre-chorus. Very straight sort of acoustic samples that we had already had. Live tambourine. As you can see, there's probably too many layers, but it fits nicely into this whole kind of electro hybrid pastiche. First part of the chorus. The hum. The hum. And here comes the second part of the chorus breakdown. Perhaps Lauren's favorite moment of...
Bing, bing, bing.
I like that one. I remember I was just like, what happens if I pull all these plugins in? I mean, samples. This was a really fun track to work on because it was a challenge for me too, because I remember, Lauren, you were very much like, change this section, change this, see what happens, change this, which I normally probably would have fallen more into my like habitual normal plugins, like tracking just a basic drum set and chopping it up. But this just worked so well for the song, and especially once you layer in, you know, just going through in the bass, which I'll talk about. So someone asked earlier about VSTs. We do use lots of virtual instruments. You know, we'll record a lot with our Prophet, which I've shown you guys before, and our Roland Juno, which is over there. The best synth of all time. But we also use a lot of soft synths, especially if we're traveling when we're writing, and it's just, you know, it's too hard to... We can't take 4 or 5 synths everywhere we go. So this is a great, it's called Sonic Couture Abstract Bass. So we use that for the 808, which you can hear here. It's really low, so I can barely even hear it in here. A really fun thing to do is combining, I think we do this on a lot of this more synth-based songs. Combine, I mean, honestly, we even did this on Dreamers, but combine one modern, very sort of high fidelity synth with something a little bit quirkier to add a more imperfect texture around it. So this is basically an 808, a modern 808 bass layered with 3 tracks of an MS-20, which is an old mono, so 1-channel Korg synth. And here's the MS-20 layered. Whoops. Side-chained against the kick. It's kind of farty, you know, but that texture, when you mix it with the 808, gives you a lot more of a unique sound as opposed to just a standard 808. And you combine that with the drums. It's pretty fun.
Sounds great.
Fairs Mason says about, I wish we could get a Moog Sub 37. Those are great synths. You can't have them all. That's what you have to learn, you know? It's like you just learn the ones you have. I want a Moog, like I want a modern Moog so bad, but I also just, you know, I had to sell if I'm selling stuff, I can't buy stuff. So here's the acoustic layer. Again, this was a really fun. I'll just play it actually from the chorus as well, because there was a vocoder. We had some bass, lots and lots of vocals. But yeah, this is basically the instrumental. Chorus part 1. Oops, I lied. I forgot that this session is not that well organized, guys. So underneath this is something called a cymbalom, which we used on a bunch of tracks this time. A cymbalom, I think, is sort of like a dulcimer, and this is just a sample that's in contact, but it's really cool. We use this on Mountains. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
When you layer this, this one is layered, I think. Oh yeah, and here it's layered more with synths. And it's really cool. And again, it's just fun layers. I think there's a symbol. Yeah. It's just a really cool, because it's almost like a hammered piano. So you have the sort of, you have that emotional quality of the piano, but you have a more percussive quality of like a, a malleted instrument or something. So that layered against the synth is really fun. And again, this is just, we talk about this every week, but this Tal Uno Lux, it's a Juno 60 soft synth, really fun to work on. And this actually has a lo-fi plugin on it. If you've never used this is again just a standard Pro Tools plugin, but you can see what it does here. We basically automated the lo-fi so that towards the end of this pattern, the sound sort of falls apart. It's coming up. It's really fun to automate unusual things like that, because this is, one of the strengths of hardware synths too, is you can do all that tactilely, but it's hard to do it often on a computer. So I always advocate for that. Lauren, before you go, because I know you have to leave in a minute, but
Yeah.
do you remember the adventure? Do you want to talk about the adventure of this bridge? Because I feel like this is very much your doing.
Gosh, when did we write this? It was 2017.
Yeah, we probably, but we finished it summer 2018. Oh no, it might have actually been mostly that year. You're right.
Yeah, I think I wanted I wanted an adventure. So that's
Yeah.
what the bridge became. It's just this like instrumental journey. I didn't want it to I don't know, but I just wanted to have fun. So I feel like that's what we did. But remind me before I go, I want to talk about our tweet adventure, our Twitter
Yes.
adventure.
Well, that's what I think. What happened was we got to this section and it kind of felt natural. This the chorus. There's so much emotional weight. There's that cool halftime break. I remember. I feel like we were both like, it should just soar here. It should be like an instrumental thing. And you were like, this is the cool. Remember this? So you were like, let's have a synth solo, and how do we make this sound? And basically, we had just, again, been listening to so much of Sylvan Esso's record. I think that's how this came about, because you were like, this is such a cool solo sound. Like, how do we recreate something like this to experiment with? And I don't remember if you told me to or not, but I was like, I'm just going to tweet Nick, Nick does most of the production. It's Sylvan Esso's Nick and Amelia. And I just tweeted at him. He's made a Vogue. And it's one of those things where, I always forget, but like, we're all just hanging out, and we all love to talk about this stuff. So I tweeted at him. This is July 12th, 2017. Dying to know how you made the lead synth sound in the glow. And like, I wish the timestamps. Oh no, it's the next day. Okay. He wrote Juno 6, ARP on, high pass filter low, res high, filter envelope way up, zero attack, low decay. He literally gave me exactly how to do it, which I was just like, I instantly was like, this is unbelievable. I think I texted you that screenshot like 5 seconds later. But it's so cool, and it makes sense. So, but yeah, slowly raising the sustain and high pass filter frequency while playing. Now, that's the key. So basically what it's doing is you're having an arpeggiator on, and everyone most people know what arpeggiator. It's when you play a chord and it cycles through the notes. So like a C major, instead of just the chord, it would be ba 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 ba, and there can be different patterns. Now, what he did, which is so cool, is it's a pretty fast arpeggiator, and a sustain. When the sustain is raised, it basically combines the notes. So what would start as like the notes would slowly get longer, so it'd be like it would slowly morph the sound. And what's so cool about that is that it creates a solo that not only has melodic energy, but it also has like the timbre actually evolves. The actual sound evolves in a really cool way. So we, unfortunately, for any synth nerds out there might know this, but there are 3 famous Roland Junos made. At least the all analog ones. There's the one I have, which is a Juno 106, which is the middle. Juno 6 was the original. Juno 6 had an arpeggiator, but no presets. Juno 106, they got rid of the arpeggiator, but added presets. And then finally, Juno 60 had both. So long story short, we actually couldn't recreate the sound. But we did have soft synths of a Poly 6, which unfortunately I can't open the original instrument anymore, but I'm actually going to show you really quick. This is going to be a little on the spot test for me. But if anyone's out there, this is a $50 plugin. It's a fantastic analog synth, and I'll show you the final product right after. But basically,
pull out the tweet. The tweet's covering the session.
Oh, bye tweet. Thanks, Nick. So this is the Poly 6, and I believe factory. Let's see, bass Korg USA, Poly 6 factory, fat line bass. Okay, so this is a sound I use a ton, and here's what it sounds like. Okay, so this has the arpeggiator on, and essentially, let's make it faster. And so what you do is, so as you can see, as you mess with the sustain, it almost combines the notes. Especially if you have a short decay. And while changing the cutoff, which is what he recommended. So if you can modulate and automate all those things, you can create a, really fun, unique solo. And so here are the final layers of those 2 things. Or 2, I think I ended up doing like 4 layers, but this is just those Poly 6 tracks printed. Ta-da! So that was an adventure. And here, let's hear it in context now. This bridge was really fun for us because I think it's rare where an instrumental bridge is really just, it's just exactly what the song needed, especially at that point coming out of the chorus.
What we have given away, the hum is what we create.
That's it, and there's a fun structure there as well because it's really a pretty heavy bass. There's a lot of chaos going on in the Junos. Those are all just played in fun things. But yeah, that's how we did that solo. It was really fun, and I'm glad it came together. And honestly, I just had no idea. So if he hadn't responded, there would probably be some dumb guitar solo there.
It
um,
truly was a magical
ugh,
time.
so good.
Yeah.
The other thing, just quickly to say on that too, I think it helps. This is just diving into a lot of new wave music, but also something that Sylvanesso does so in such a cool way. The tones, they're so often just pure oscillators. They're not
Mm.
they're not overworked digital hybrid things. Like that is just a saw wave filtered in a cool way, you know? And so much of what Nick does in all of that sound design and stuff. I mean, I think there's been so many times, right, Lauren, where you're like, what's that song, Die Young, right? Where it's just that like weird square wave chorus
Yeah.
drop. So next time you're like experimenting or writing, instead of pulling up a really complicated synth, I would recommend pulling up like baseline saw wave and seeing what happens. I mean, there's a reason why all those Nintendo songs feel so magical because it's like great songwriting with simple oscillators. I don't know, and maybe it just is tapping into our like collective like youth, like hearing Nintendo songs. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
it's also just like it's nice to be reminded that electronic created music doesn't always have to mean computer music, and it doesn't
yeah,
always have to mean pop engineered music. It can be incredibly artful, which is what they do so well.
totally. You're right, and most of that stuff like that's actually recreating electrical signals more than anything. It's not
Right,
like it's not digital really, and well,
right.
especially in his case using a Juno 6, it's not digital at all. In our case, it was, but it's funny. It's digital. It's a digital software recreating very basic electrical signals, which it's kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the basis of the bridge, and I think what was cool about this song is that we realized. I mean, it is intro, pre-chorus, chorus A, chorus B, instrumental bridge. And at this point, I remember like pulling this, and this happens often when you're crafting like pop music of any form. How long is it? Ah, well, it's 2 minutes long. At this point, it's 2 minutes of consistently new material. And I think at that point, we kind of just decided, let's just put on a very beautiful outro and leave the song at like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm so glad we did because we could have totally forced another, gone back to a verse or like another whole chorus, but it just didn't want that, and especially after a peak. Like, where do you go after a peak like that? It's like such a
Well,
fever pitch of chaos and like weird analog synth layering, and
yeah.
so
It honestly also just makes me want to listen to it over and over again. So
totally,
that is kind of what's nice about it too.
totally. I mean, I think I think it's nice about kind of messing with the pop formula sometimes and just being like, a song can just be this ride, this one way ticket sort of thing, and it doesn't have to be a predictable map. And especially with the chorus being so beautiful vocally, I remember being like, well, maybe the ticket is we go back, we go back to the chorus so that everyone can hear that beautiful, the vocal layers, but in a different light, you know. And again, I want to show you everyone. This is sort of the last thing when it comes to this song. The way we recorded this is Lauren basically on the spot did a bunch of layers. And what's nice about doing sort of like harmonies without necessarily plotting them out is you end up with weirder movement, I feel like. Like I love this technique, and we've done it on a few songs now, but you know,
The gravity of the
I would
light
suppose this would be the melody, maybe.
after the darkness at night, the breath that keeps us alive.
And it might not even be the melody, but it doesn't matter. And then I remember you saying this,
The gravity of the light
all one note.
after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive.
Which is beautiful. And then 4, 3,
The gravity of the light
slight difference.
after the darkness of night,
That's cool.
the breath that keeps us alive.
I mean, this is you singing too as low as you could, I feel like. And then
The gravity of the light.
that's kind of a melody too. But basically, I think you were just blindly improvising what could be a
Hmm.
harmony. And when you tune them really tight and put them together, they create this really cool, almost like vocoder.
The gravity of the light After the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive.
There's little old Paul coming in at the end.
What we have carefully saved, what we have given away, the hum is what we create.
Woo! So especially I think when we kind of restated that theme at the end, I remember we just kind of wanted this ambient sort of lush release. So here's how the instrumental kind of tones down. It's a cool layer. I again, another thing I always recommend is like combining real instruments with synths. So we ended up getting some woodwind samples and some really pretty strings and created this kind of just pad, a very complex pad. You're coming out of the big bridge. What's kind of cool about it too is it's almost like a little synth orchestra tuning. It's so pretty. And that's basically just a wash ostinato. I think this song's in G. But once the vocals are set against it, it's kind of reframing the vocals in a really beautiful light.
The gravity of the light, after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive. What we have carefully saved, what we have given away, the hum is what we create.
And that's that.
That's that. That was such a mission statement for what we were going to start doing with completing the record, basically.
Yeah. It really set the tone. And I can't remember if we 100% finished it before anything else. But for anyone who knows Full Bloom, that's the first song on the track. It's cool, and it's cool to have a mission statement in the process, but then also, like, it's nice to have that at the top of an album, because from there, there's a mood, there's a palette, I think Bloom, right, comes right after it on the record. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
yeah.
and then it blossoms into that. Eduardo said, so that's how the magic is made. Indeed. Thank you. Well, yeah, that's pretty much the song, guys. It's, I think I didn't touch on every single little soft synth, but that's the main idea. At the end, it's just, some string samples and contact, and it all kind of came together in that fashion. If you have any other questions, I mean, Lauren, I know you got to run. I might just play the song again and hang for a second to see if anyone else has any other questions about the session, but
Cool.
that's the hum, guys. So yeah, Lauren, I guess I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. Somewhere.
Working on Friday?
Yes, I'll see you Friday.
Cool.
Virtually.
Virtually.
Still socially
Still
distanced.
virtually, everybody. Almost there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put on the video again and
Okay.
see you. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Close the little window. Oh, I love when it freezes and it's just two of me. Here's one more time. Hear the final product with our audio visualizer. This is the hum. And I'm sticking around for a little bit, so any questions at all about the session, the mixing, processing, blah blah blah. I'm here. I'm hanging out. So shoot away. I got the comments open for YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Here's the hum. Effective?
A little more crooked.
Yeah.
Break me in two. Let me choose which part to move. not sure which half to use or what's left to lose. Stuck here in the name of love. Will I ever know it's home? Enough to tell if I found some.
And all my life I'll never take it. And all my love I'll never fake it. Running past it over and over. And all my love, we're getting closer to the
The gravity of the light after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive. Will we have carefully saved what we have given away? The hum is what we create. The gravity of the light after the darkness of night, the breath that keeps us alive.
The hum.
What we have carefully saved, what we have given away, the hum is what we create.
And that is the hum. And yeah, for anyone curious, the way we made this visualizer was pretty funny because as you can see, the lights on the sampler actually pop up. So directly off camera, here I'll just mute the audio. The way this sampler works is you can actually control it with a keyboard. So here's a little MIDI cable. Oh, you can't actually see my cursor, but there's a MIDI cable on the top there, and right off to the left is a keyboard. So I'm actually performing on a keyboard along with the vocals in order to get the lighting to cue up.
Not sure which half to use or what's left to lose.
Hopefully in the stream the audio is queued up, but it should be.
Stuck here.
So yeah, that's all. That's actually the lights are performed, which was a whole it's a weird process, but it made for a really cool product and a really cool video for us. Thank you, James. I appreciate that, and Eduardo for the kind words here. So Ferris Mason on YouTube asked, "Are there real drums on this song? Where do you get the samples from? Is there any chance we could get some Savoir door stems to play around with?" I'd be more than happy to post some stems of any song, because why not? I'll show you guys a little bit of these drum samples. This was an interesting time for the band and also for myself personally because, the Savoir door sound, if you followed a number of albums, we started off very, very kind of garagey in a way. I always thought of us as kind of like a garage electro band because we were combining synths, but with drums recorded in a basement in Bushwick with one microphone, and it kind of created this weird, contrast. And then over time, we kind of changed the recording techniques a little bit in order to evolve as a band. And so this was around the time where I started using a lot more sort of hybrid electronic and piece together drums in a way. So this is actually Montreal here. This is Steven Chouinard from the band La Couleur. We did a whole session of drums up in Montreal. And when I ended up, he played all the drums on When the Summer Ends and a little bit caught up on Body Heat and I think on Bloom too. But I ended up just using the kick sample on this because this is much more of like a drum machine kind of thing. So this is he has such an awesome kit up there in Montreal. And it's layered with this acoustic trash this is actually samples 90 Soul 96 sample library that I used for a long time. Kick Ghost Direct. We did this at my studio upstate with Ben Marshall, our drummer at the time. So it's basically 3 different layers of drums recorded 3 different places. But they're EQ'd or they're treated in a way where they create this sort of acoustic sounding kick, but with more consistency that you would normally get with a sampled kick drum, which is from that Soul 96. And then, from there I also squash it with this McDSP. This is an unbelievable multi-band compressor. I use it on all my drums. I just absolutely love it. Oh yeah, and there's also a pillowy kick. This is the low pillow sort of sub, as you can see. So it's really a combination of live drums, but it's all chopped up. And for the bridge is really fun. Fairs asked on YouTube, can you show the snare processing for the Epic Bridge? So I will say though that at this stage, so I basically printed everything, all this production, and then Steve Veely, amazing mix engineer in Brooklyn, he did the final mixing on this. So the snare processing probably changed for the final recording, which you obviously heard against the visualizer. It was here though for us. Now, I think the big difference is that I would say he probably compressed that quite a bit more because, I was really happy with this drum sound. And, this again is where we were at. This is something I like to do too a lot of with the drum parts, or you've got your really strong kick, snare, sort of electronic thing, so it's your anchor, but then you want to have a little more feel, so I'd always recommend getting some. This is actually a splice loop of a hi-hat pattern, and then I played in these two, which are just noise hats, which is always nice to give you that sort of really tight percussive feel. But yeah. Show you guys, those drums were good, but what Steve did to the final, he really squashed the drums a lot more in a cool way. So when you get to the chorus, here's the final version. The pre-chorus bridge. So as you can see, he actually pushed the low end and pushed the compression on the drums a lot more. So I should, like on some of these, I should probably ask if Steve wants to chime in, because on some of these, he really took them in a really cool creative direction past just my production, but sonically pushing things to, in a really cool way. So I would say, with that, he definitely compressed the low end and overall the drum kit a little bit more. James, thanks for the kind words. Yeah, the snare is ducking the mix. Yeah, Fairs, you're totally right. The snare, I think the kick and snare maybe are either they're just much hotter in the mix and hitting the bus compression, or they're side chaining against that bass material a little bit more. It's really cool. That was one mix. Steve sent that back, and I was like, perfect, no notes, which is how you want it to go. But James on YouTube asked, will there be a stream creating a track from start to finish? Absolutely. We've been thinking about doing that for a while. We were trying to also troubleshoot a little bit, because I had a little problem doing that once you start recording while streaming at the same time, the display capture. But I think we'll be doing that, maybe if not next week, the week after. So yeah, definitely tune in, and we always post about these. If you don't follow us on Instagram, give us a follow, because we'll always kind of post what we're doing the morning of or the night before. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Thanks for following us. We are here. Again, I'm Paul from Savoir. That was Lauren, who was FaceTiming in for the first hour. We are here every Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're both in New York time. And we're doing these session breakdowns, talking about Pro Tools. Maybe at some point we'll also talk about our live show, which would be fun, or doing a live writing session. But this was The Hum. If you like what you heard, please, Follow us on Spotify. There's a ton more music there. If there's a song you'd really love for us to break down from our catalog, let us know. Write us a note. We're just happy to be able to keep doing stuff while we're, still pretty locked down. I think it's going to be a while before we play shows again, which is a bummer, but it has to be. So again, that was The Hum. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And next up will be Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, DJ set and dance party. So we'll see you then.